we saw the words of our sages and a few sources, how the superiority, the advantage of the Torah in Eretz Yisrael. They called Torah Eretz Yisrael. We saw the first source, the Rabbi said, Ein Torah ke Torah Eretz Yisrael. There's no Torah, the Torah of Eretz Yisrael. We began to explain, won't repeat everything. For those that weren't here, it's recorded for them to hear. But there's amazing emphasis that the rabbis put on this unique Torah of Eretz Yisrael. The question is, what is it? Rabbis learned Torah, Jews have learned Torah for thousands of years in the land of Israel, outside the land of Israel. The Talmud Bavli redacted outside the land of Israel. But we saw even the Talmud Bavli that said, that Rav Zera says that the air of Eretz Yisrael makes wise. And we saw other sources how Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta says to his son, you want to see the Shekhinah in this world, learn Torah in Eretz Yisrael, the bottom source on the right. There's a special advantage. We started to explain a little bit of that advantage of Eretz Yisrael. We mentioned it's like it's two people, a person at the top of a mountain, as opposed to one who stands at the bottom of a mountain. Who sees farther? The same person, the same vision, the same eyesight, but on the top of the mountain, different vantage point. Eretz Yisrael is not the same as on the globe, as it looks like to say, another place on the planet. But there's a place, we said how it's actually the bridge between place and beyond place. Just like Shabbat is the bridge, so to speak, that comes from beyond time, that enables us to connect to that which is beyond time. In our world of time and space, there are bridges that God's created. In time, it's the Shabbat. In place, in space, it's Eretz Yisrael. That's a space that is not the same as any other place. And therefore, the advantage, the vision that is available, attainable here, is totally different. It's totally unattainable outside the land of Israel. But we'll get to the source we left off with on the left, the second source on the left, again from the Talmud Bavli in Chagigah, page 5b. We saw that there's three tears, it says in Yirmiyahu 13, that there's three tears that is if that God cries, sheds these tears. The rabbi said one tear is for the first temple that was destroyed, the other tear, the second temple destroyed, and the third temple was the nation of Israel, because the verse says, for the flock of God, the nation of Israel was taken into captivity. God sheds a tear on that. That's a sad thing for the world. When the Jewish people are not in the land of Israel, that is a sad situation, a tragedy for all of existence, because that's the vehicle that enables godliness, goodness, life, this vitality, this justice and truth to come to this world, this bridge, like the third bridge we said, in space and time and in people, the nefesh, right? We saw last week, Ashan. Olam Shana B'Nefesh, the rabbis call it, these three dimensions of place, time, and people, and souls. The Jewish people are this bridge that enables this blessing to come to all of mankind. When the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, that enables this connection, this plugging in of our finite world, of our world of darkness and suffering and even death and borders, to a world that is much greater, to the divine, the gift that He wishes to bestow upon all, to connect all to this endless good. And for that He created, again, these vehicles that He didn't just create the world deism. He throw the world, and the world exists on its own. It's like suffer, and whatever happens to the world is not, He's like left the world, God forbid. But God has constantly created the world for a purpose, to bring it to that ultimate good, to make that connection, to make all of this world a full, what the rabbis say, a full expression of that inner content, in the divine ideal, to be revealed in this world. And what we call the world, the practical three-dimensional world, to bring unification, like it says, we say at the end of Alelu L'Shabeach in Zechariah 14. In that day, Hashem Echad, U'Shmo Echad. He will be one, and His name will be one. The name is like the ideal, how it's expressed, how He's revealed, how He's called. That ideal will be revealed in this world, to be one and the same. The full expression of that ultimate ideal. Like we said on Shabbat, Mincha, special prayer when we rise higher and higher, the prayers on Shabbat and Mincha, we say the special prayers are Ata Echad, V'Shimcha Echad, Mik Goy Echad, Ata Echad V'Shimcha Echad, V'Goy Echad Ba'aretz. That this is how this a summary of all this connection, that you are one, you're beyond, there's no word for it, it's beyond any contemplation, beyond the limitations and borders. And your name is one, your ideal, that's how it's revealed and manifested, is this oneness. And how is it revealed? How is it expressed in this world? What's the vehicle expressing that unity in the world of multiplicity, of diversity, of what the rabbis called Alma de Peruda, the world of separation. We live in the world of branches. We don't see the unified roots, the good. Where do you see the divine? It's all fractured and scattered and full of wars and suffering and death. Nevertheless, you are one and your name is one. And how is it revealed? Through the nation of Israel, who is one, Goy Echad, Ba'aretz, in the land of Israel, as the rabbis emphasize. That is, all this is manifested, this oneness of God is revealed in this vehicle, this conduit that God created to receive and express that oneness in this world, to unify all, like the conductor that unifies all the instruments, to work in perfect harmony. That's the whole goal of creation, to create that world of oneness, of goodness, of this unlimited good, which is amazing to talk about. It sounds wild and lofty, but the more you learn to understand what that, endless, but what the good that God wishes to bestow, what blessing, how that comes to the world through this vehicle that, ironically, the world most suffers, that it persecutes, and you'd think they would recognize, let us be what we are, to bring you a blessing. With the blessing that comes to the world, like it says to the fathers over and over again, all the nations of the world will be blessed through you. You have this ability, you created such, to bring this good to all, to connect worldliness to godliness. Instead of appreciating that, letting us do that job, we go through all this suffering and irony but that's also part of the process, to bring out this bigger good. But nevertheless, that's the vehicle. The Jews in the land of Israel are what enabled this, called it plugging in the world to that, beyond this world, to the divine, to this infinite good. Until at the end, there's no death. Again, it sounds so far off. But what do we pray every day? At the beginning of Shemona Esrei, what's the first? Baruch Hashem, not the first. It's Magid Avraham, and then Baruch Hashem, Mechayeh Hamitim. Maral says, no one ever witnessed that. We pray that every day the Jews believe and know that we're getting to the point that the body isn't meant to decay and to pass away, to be finished. It's a one continuum from the spiritual, this infinite, eternal essence of goodness, down to and through the body. It's so connected, it's so plugged in that it all is infused with vitality and life and goodness. And again, not just that it lives longer, we'll live 1,000 years. Who wants to live 1,000 years in a wheelchair, in a hospital, in a old age home? But it's not, it's the vitality that the body doesn't decay when you become sick and old. It's full of life and goodness and endless attachment to the source, plugged into the socket of energy that it doesn't depreciate, it doesn't diminish its life. But that's where we're headed. As amazing as this thing, that's all what's taking place in this process of the journey of the Jews back to the land of Israel. This redemption process that we're witnessing and part of is the return of the Jews back to the land, to be that vehicle again, to be kingdom, priest, and holy nation, and then to be indeed this vehicle that was then plugging in the world to this ultimate amazing good. That's why there's forces of negativity that tries to hold up that. They feel that good that's about to come, and there are these forces that the rabbis say towards the end, like the flickering of the candle before it goes out, they make their last stand of trying to hold up that good. But this is where we're going now, and we have to be sure and know that this is ultimately the divine. The certainty of its victory is that it's not ours. It's not some man-made ideal that we're talking about. God, the whole purpose of creation, all the created was just to bring to that point. Everything is unfolding and being guided towards that fulfillment. But nevertheless, so God is crying over that tear, for that tear of Nishba Eder Hashem, that the fact that the flock of God, his flock, the Jewish people outside of his land, are taken into captivity. But the rabbi says, another opinion, that the third tier is for Bitul Torah. Bitul Torah, the nullification of Torah, the loss of Torah. So the rabbis ask, we saw this Gemara, we left off last time, we have to explain it a little bit more. The rabbis ask, but how is that written in the verse? The first thing, the first opinion was that the third tier was for the Jews being in exile. And that's what it says in the verse, for the flock of God was taken into captivity. But Bitul Torah, where'd you get that from? Where'd you find that in the verse? Where's any reference to that? So the rabbis say what you see in that second source, those who are allowed can look inside where it's underlined. Kevan shegalu Yisrael mimkoman, since the Jews are exiled from their place. What's their place? Eretz Yisrael. Ein lecha bitul Torah, you have no greater loss, negation of Torah than this. Again, this is a wonder. What do you mean the Jews outside the land you have no greater loss of Torah? This is written in Talmud Bavli. And the rabbis learned this and teach it and whatever for 2,000 years learning this. What do you mean? Not 2,000. Redacting the front. What are we in now? 1,600 years. Again, this is in the, we've been in exile almost 2,000 years. So what does it mean that you have no greater loss of Torah than this? The Jews, like I said, learned throughout these years, keeping the Torah, fulfilling the Torah. But again, we have to understand that based on what I just said previously, that the Torah is not just the book learning. The book can be taken and written and published, printed outside of Israel. But the Torah, we said, is the neshama of Am Yisrael, is the spiritual inner source, the life force, that divine ideal that is planted in the Jewish people. Simply put, outside the land of Israel, as we saw there, we see other sources we've seen, I think, for those that were here, that there's no nation. The vehicle of the Jewish people as a nation is destroyed that's the definition of exile, of galut. What Haman pointed out, right? Am Fuzar, we're going to read next month. Am Fuzar Mufurad Ben Amim, a nation that is scattered and fractured amongst the nations. In other words, this unified vehicle that receives and expresses this oneness of God, like this parallel receptacle of God's oneness, this white light, it receives as white light before it goes through the prism. This receptacle of oneness, the Jewish people, as we'll see, that's the vehicle. Like it says in Yeshayahu 43:21, Amzu Yatzarti Li, Tilati Yisaperu. This nation have I created unto me to say my name. He created this vehicle that expresses, that can pick up this light, this goodness, this energy to the world. When that's broken, that fracture, that vehicle is broken, then there's no vehicle to express it. The address is non-existent. You have no greater bitul Torah than this. You have no greater nullification, inability to express that neshama in the world. Like it says again in Yeshayahu 42, Noten neshama le'am aleha. I give the neshama that is revealed to the nation upon this land. In this land, that's where that neshama is revealed. That's how it's built. Like I said, it's Shabbat. I can't keep Shabbat. I'll do it on Tuesday. I'm busy on Saturday. On Tuesday, I'll make kiddush. I'll get dressed up, and it's not a subjective thing that you can determine. I'll be religious and holy and keep the Torah in New York. As we'll see, as we've seen more, it's not a subjective, it's a created reality. God created these bridges, these connections, these places that enable this, that are not fogged down, they're not, no other distractions. It's totally this, again, the white light, the top of the mountain or the prism, the white light is received before it's refracted in different colors, so to speak. The oneness of God, this totality of all of God's good that He wishes to bestow, comes down through this vehicle. When the Jews are outside the land, you have no greater bitul Torah, you have no greater nullification of that neshama. But if we go a little bit deeper, again, like I said, what is the neshama of Am Yisrael? That is the divine ideal. That is His name. That is His goal. So outside the land of Israel, you have no greater, how do you say, inability to express the neshama, the divine ideal in the world, and that's the Torah. So since the Jews are exiled, you have no greater bitul Torah than this. This is an objective reality, like in Yechezkel 36. Outside the land, it's a desecration of His name. His name cannot be expressed when the Jews are scattered. The body is not there to receive the neshama. The body is where? A goy echad ba'aretz. Mikam chai Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. Who's like your nation one in the land. When outside the land, they're not one, they're fractured. And when they're fractured, the ramification is in Yechezkel 36. It's the desecration of His name. His name cannot, His big ideal cannot be revealed in the world. It's in Yechezkel 37, it's the graveyard. The nation is not alive. It's not able to bring about that gift that it's meant to bring to this world. A great artist, and his hands are tied, he's sick, whatever, he can't give his blessing. He can't reveal who his inner talents. The talents are there. Am Yisrael has the Torah, but it comes to expression through certain conditions, and the condition are, like we said, goy echad ba'aretz. Mikam chai Yisrael goy echad. Who is your nation like one in the land? There is where they can express. Outside the land, you have no greater bitul Torah than this. So we have to go on to so much more. We'll see how this also has ramifications on the individual level, so to speak. Not just a divine ideal cannot be revealed. There's no conduit. There's no receptacle. Because if the Shekhinah does not dwell in a broken place, Shechinte lo sharya ba'atar pagim. When the nation, like the body is fractured, the neshama, like the individuals, your soul can't be revealed when God forbid, the body is in pieces. It's revealed through a healthy, unified body, and then the soul, the energy, content and your personality can be revealed in all of your gifts and your talents. But here we'll see the next source. We'll go on. There's much more that the rabbis describe this. What is this nullification? What is the difference? What is the... but let's go on and see. Avot Rabbi Natan, right? There's Pirkei Avot, there's 6 chapters of Pirkei Avot, but there's also, like, so to speak, the expanded version of Avot. It's also one of the small tractates of Avot Rabbi Natan. In chapter 28, it says, Chacham Hadar Beretz Yisrael, a scholar who lives in the land of Israel, Vayotze Chutzlar, and he leaves. He goes to Chutzlar, he leaves the land of Israel. Pagam, he is blemished. The same person. What do you mean? The same wisdom, the same knowledge. What's the difference? Like I said before, the guy at the top of the mountain, the bottom of the mountain. It's a different level. He's not that he's changed, but Pagam. Hadarba, he that lives in Eretz Yisrael, Meshubach Himenu, he that lives here and stays here, is on a higher level. The Chesed Abraham, Rav Azulai, the grandfather, great-grandfather of the Chida, who was buried here and was brought, his bones was brought by Rav Eliyahu to buried in Har Menuchot, the Chida, if you've heard of him, the giant of Torah, Rav Chaim Yosef David Azulai, over 40 books. His great-grandfather, Chesed Avraham, lived in Hebron, buried in Hebron. As a book, you can call it a book of Kabbalah, deeper wisdom. It talks about the super amazing depth of Eretz Yisrael. Among one of the chapters there is how this diruv, this levels, delineating the different levels of the soul of the people in Israel. There's one who was born here, lived here, died here, is buried here. There's one who lived here, left, and came back. There's one who gets to there's levels and levels. The highest level being obviously who was constantly here, totally in this connection to, like it says in Dvarim Yud Aleph, the place where God's eyes are upon this land from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. This is the place, the direct connection to Hashem. Yisrael, Yashar, Kel, straight to God, right? Eretz Yisrael. Yisrael, straight to Hashem. Not that God is in Eretz Yisrael, but this is the place He created that is direct, how we can connect directly, how we can plug in. Right? There's sound waves all over the room here, but there's a certain antenna or the ears that pick up. Not just that hear the sound waves in my ear, but the sound waves are all over. But there's vehicles that enable this full receiving, the reception of the divine that is all over. The ear that accepts the connection to God, the voice of God, the sound of God, right? From Zion to Grat Torah, the word of God from Yerushalayim. That's the Jews in Eretz Yisrael. That's this vehicle that He created. Nevertheless, so this rabbi that leaves is on a lower level than he that stays here, remains here, is better than him. And even though he is damaged or lowered, so to speak, Meshubach, he's still greater. He's still greater than all those outside the land. Than the praise, right? All those, the greats outside the land. Because the advantage of being here put him on a certain level. Actually, Rav Nachman Rebreslov, there's a book collecting all of his writings on Eretz Yisrael, Sefer Eretz Yisrael, this giant book. I think physically the biggest book I have, the size of the book. Nevertheless, in the beginning, he talks there how he came to Eretz Yisrael and under great difficulties and challenges and overcame them all and had to go back, etc. But he writes that all of my writings, all that I said before, I don't want to be published, only the things that I said after being in Eretz Yisrael. After having this certain perspective, this vision, all that I said before is not the same level here. Even though he's outside the land and he was lowered, so to speak, he still retains this advantage of having seen once the bigger light, let's call it. On the left, I just quoted the continuation there of the Avot Rabbi Natan. It says there are 10 things that are called life in the Torah. Hashem, Yisrael, righteous person, Gan Eden, and Eretz Yisrael, and Yerushalayim. And all these things that are called life, these are the vehicles of the center of life, at the heart, the brain, that is the centers of vitality. But let's go to the bottom, the left of this sheet. The Gemara in Ketubot, again, the Talmud Bavli, page 75a. The verse in Tehillim. U'letzion yamer ish v'ish yulad ba. But of Zion it shall be said, this man and that was born in her, and the Most High Himself will establish her. On that, the rabbis say, Echad nolad ba, he that is born in the land. What does it say ish ish? Why it says he, the two people, two ish. One that was born there, v'echad metzapeh lotan, he that wishes to see it. There's a level that can be attained to he that was in Eretz Yisrael, but also there's an advantage of he that is constantly in desire to be there. But a true desire, not just, we really, like the Kuzari says, that people are praying, they point their feet to Eretz Yisrael, and we all pray in all the world, right? They pray to facing Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim. But he says it's not enough just to point your feet. Rabbi Yaakov Emden, right? Also, it's like a tripping of a parakeet, of just saying the words. He pointed that it's only worthwhile if you can't be there. So the best you can do is at least to point your feet and direct. But if you can be there, today, no excuse. But nevertheless, he says, though, just to point your feet and to say, I want to be there, let's pray to Eretz Yisrael, build yours next year in Jerusalem, when you can come, is this hypocrisy and very... Nevertheless, he that is in the land of Israel or wants to be there. And then the Gemara says, Abaye says, Chad minayu. You see the third line? Well, it's underlined there. Chad minayu. Abaye was one of the Amorim living outside of Eretz Yisrael in Bavel. Chad minayu, one of them in Eretz Yisrael, referring to the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, one of them is better than two of us in Bavel. Whatever that means, two of us. I mean, what does it mean better? I think Rashi says here at the bottom, I think mine can't, what does it say? Harifim, what does it say here? They're more clever, intelligent, smart, and shrewd. But nevertheless, he says they're twice that of us. Rava says, Chad minan, one of us, when we go, what is salik? We mentioned that last week. Salik. So we're hearing, what is salik? Ole. When they go, make aliyah, right? Going up, not because it's higher, the Everest is higher, but going up, Eretz Yisrael is the highest place in the world, the highest place connected close to the spiritual center, the spiritual source of existence. When we go up to Eretz Yisrael, if one of us who goes up to there is better than Trei Minayu, two of those in Eretz Yisrael. What does that mean? When someone makes aliyah, what does he become?
2 souls.
How much?
2 souls.
How much does it become? That's another. But what is it? According to this, one of them in Eretz Yisrael is two of those worth two better than two of those in Bavel. Those who mix an aliyah in Eretz Yisrael, in Bavel goes to Eretz Yisrael, he becomes twice those in Eretz Yisrael. So what does he become? What he was? If X is the rabbi in Eretz Yisrael, if X is the rabbi in Bavel, 2x Eretz Yisrael is 2x, is worth twice. The one from Bavel, X, goes to Eretz Yisrael, he's twice those in Eretz Yisrael. Those in Eretz Yisrael are 2x. 2 times 2x is 4x. He goes from X to 4x. He's quadrupled. Whatever that means. And the rabbis point this out, not me, the Khatam Sofer, the Fla. He becomes 4 of what he was. The potential, the energy, the perspective, as we'll see, is like quadrupled. The same rabbi, like at the top of the mountain, it's 4 times the vision that you had here, outside. That's what it says here. And they bring the proof, so to speak, the Rabbi Yirmiyah. They bring a proof from a Rabbi Yirmiyah. Interesting, giant Torah personality throughout the Shas. When he was here in Bavel, Lo hava yada mai kamari rabban. He didn't know what the rabbis were saying. He wasn't the top of the class. He didn't understand what they were saying. He was like, Ki salik, when he went there, what is salik?
Aliyah.
When he made aliyah to there, Karilan, he called us, when he came to Eretz Yisrael, right, he now calls us, you Babylai Tipsha, you foolish Babylonians. The same person, the same rabbi. Then he was like, I don't call it the bottom of the class. He didn't understand what the rabbis were saying, and he came up to Eretz Yisrael. You see this proof in case, how do I say, what case in proof, whatever, case in point, that you see how one, when he goes to Eretz Yisrael, becomes a different person, a different understanding, a different vision. What is this case? The next sheet you have to get. I'm going to pass these out. The first source on this sheet is from the Talmud Bavli in Psachim, which is the case they're referring to. There's this halachic discussion, and Rav Zera, coming Rav Zera, and Rav Zera, this is the case that we're referring to in the Gemara in what we just read now in Ketuvot. This is also in the Talmud Bavli in Psachim 34b. Rav Zera comes to Eretz Yisrael and he says, Amar Bavlei Tapshe, you foolish Babylonians. He comes back brings the message. He says to them, you foolish Babylonians, Mishum diyatve be'ara dechashocha. Why are you foolish? What, you're smart? I'm not smarter than you. But what does he call them foolish? The Gemara says, why? You sit in the land of darkness. Amritum shmaita demachshu. Therefore you say words of darkness. In other words, your vision is an outcome. There's another sheet. Your vision is an outcome of this, the place that causes this inability to see the total vision. Like we saw Rabbi Zera. He had the same rabbi that made Aliyah, that he had a certain opinion. When he came to Eretz Yisrael, he changed his mind. Why? He says, now I stand on the truth of the matter. Right? We saw in the Rashba. Now I see the bigger picture. Now I see the truth in its clarity. Eretz Yisrael, and that's what the Gemara said, right? In the Gemara Bava Batra 158, the second source on the sheet on the right, we saw that when he came to Eretz Yisrael, he says, you see that the air of Eretz Yisrael makes wise. What the rabbis will see later is called Hamakom Gorem, that the place is the cause. Not because you're smarter, better, you're the same person. But my metaphor of the top of the mountain, in other words, it's a certain vantage point that enables this perspective. So here he says, you're in the land of darkness, you have this, your glasses are full of smog or whatever, you can't see. Not because you're not smart, but you foolish Babylonians, because you're in the land of darkness, you say words of darkness. Again, we have so much more to explain, so we'll go on. The next source, also from the Talmud Bavli, in Shabbat. The rabbis were sitting before Rabbi Yochanan, and the rabbis say he lived an extraordinary, lengthy life. Maybe the numbers were exaggerated, but very, very, very old age, beyond the usual. Rabbi Yochanan, he's that ultimately redacted what we call the Talmud Yerushalmi. 100 years before the redaction of the Talmud Bavli. Ravina Ravashi redacted the Talmud Bavli. But before that, Rav Yochanan, before they saw that they were leaving Eretz Yisrael with the decrees, they couldn't stay, all these different things that didn't enable us to continue learning in Torah. It wasn't like we left to be life of luxury. They couldn't live in Eretz Yisrael, they couldn't continue. But Rav Yochanan stayed in Eretz Yisrael. We'll see different sayings of his throughout the Talmud, of his very Zionistic perspective. But he is the father, so to speak, of the Talmud Yerushalmi. So he was sitting there, and you'll see also from this source the atmosphere of his yeshiva here. He was kamnamnamim, it says in the second line. He was sort of dozing off during his teachings. He was dozing off, and the students, what do the students start doing? When the rabbis start dozing off, they start talking and asking different things. So the first line that's underlined, right, the fourth line, but where it's underlined here, they say one of the questions they asked each other, why are the rabbis in Bavel, this is right, the yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, they say, why are the rabbis in Bavel so dressed up? They're so fancy, they go with suit and ties. In Eretz Yisrael, they walk around in less, not always with suit and ties and fancy. Why are the rabbis, why are they so dressed up in Chutz La'aretz? Rashi says, if you're on the left, they get dressed up in nice clothes and fancy clothes. Mitsuyanim, Rashi says, makushatim, they say makushat, with jewelries and fancy dressed up. So they answer, what's the answer they give each other, the students? Because they're not scholars. You're not scholars, so they have to, Rashi says, they're not going to be honored like the ones in Eretz Yisrael because of their Torah study, their Torah greatness. So you have to get dressed up fancy, so you'll be respected because of, wow, with a nice hat and suit and tie, a guy that people look at him, they respect him just for his dress. So the students attribute it because the rabbis outside are not as scholarly. They don't deserve the honor. They don't demand the respect. The demand, meaning, they command respect, whatever. They don't get this respect because of their knowledge. So they dressed up to make up for that, to get the honor, so to speak, they have to dress up fancily. The bottom, there's a lot more in the middle here, different questions, but the bottom, Rav Yochanan wakes up, so to speak, and answers, and he hears what they said. I think he yells at them, he says, Dardaki, you foolish, your answers are not so good. He doesn't agree with their answers. Mipnei ma, so the answer, the rabbi says, so what is the answer? What is the truth then? What is your answer, Rabbi Yochanan? Mipnei ma tamid chacham shebabab, so why are they dressed up fancy? Lefi she'einam b'nei mekomam, because they're not in their place.
That mean?
Oh, what does that mean? What?
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Why do they have to dress up fancy?
They are not, when we say they are not chacham, that they didn't learn.
No, that was the student's opinion, the answer. He says that they are Talmidei Chachamim. The reason that they dress up fancy is not because of their lack of scholarship. They're scholars, they're rabbis, they're scholars, they know Torah, they're giants of Torah. Not to make fun of rabbi, God forbid, rabbis outside of Israel. Like I said, you see from the students is, I don't know, a condescending perspective, the Zionists, the rabbis outside, they don't know how to learn. That's why they have to dress up fancy to make up for it. So, yeah.
Maybe because when you're home, you dressed a little more relaxed.
Right, that's the simple understanding. How do you say, in the army also there's a special uniform, like when you go out, like when you go to America, they dress up fancy and you represent, so your clothes are more of the, and at home you wear the pajamas, everyone knows you're the head of the army, even when you don't wear your, the Rosh Mimshalah, the head of the government, whatever, they know him, they can walk around in pajamas and still people know they get there, but there you have to dress up fancy. Also Rashi says more or less that they're not known. When you're outside of your place, they don't know you. You're a Talmid Chacham, they don't know that. But you see the dress, they respect you for the clothes. At home, like you said, they know you. You can dress as you are. They know your rabbi so-and-so walks in, everyone stands up. Even when he doesn't have a suit on. He's known in his place. But you see here that the place is what causes the difference. It's not some individual distinction. The rabbis outside the land, they don't know. God forbid. Giants of Torah, rabbis, scholars throughout the generations. Although the rabbis nevertheless point out there's a difference. The same Rav Zera, when he came here, it's a different person. Rav Yirmiyah, when he came here, 4 times, whatever that means, the 4 times are different, the level. That means the great rabbis outside the land are great. The Vilna Gaon, if he was in Eretz Yisrael, he tried to come, he was on the way, right? The relative, he writes to his family, I'm leaving you, going to the place that the heavens and earth are all desire for, whatever. He didn't make it again. God has reasons of who, like Moshe Rabbeinu, there's certain levels that the world isn't ready yet for that final. If they came, it would be a certain level reached that the world isn't ready for yet. Nevertheless, when he said it's a Vilna Gaon was here, it would not because he wasn't a giant outside. He would have been a super Gaon, a super giant. He would have leveled the prophecy had he been here. In other words, it's not coming to diminish the level there, but rather to understand, appreciate the grandeur of the level that is obtainable and reached in Eretz Yisrael. But now, I guess I want to get, again, there's so much. The Talmud Bavli in the Gemara in Sanhedrin 24. It says, I have the translation I did once in English for the verses. If you see the third line that's underlined, they bring down 2 verses. One in Zechariah, V'kachli, I will take to, the prophet says, I will take to me 2 staves, 2 branches, sticks. One I will call Noam, and the other I called Chovlim. What does Noam mean? What? Naim, pleasant, nice, pleasant and gracious. The other I call Chovim. What's Chovlim? Like Mechablim, Chovel. But what is Mechabel? Terrorist. Chovel is a helchot. Chovel is to hit, to smite, to attack. So one is a stick of pleasantness. One is a stick of attackers. And pay attention. One is in the singular tense, Noam, and one is called the Chovlim, the multiple, the plural. Anyway, what does the rabbi say? What is Noam? What does that mean? The scholars of in Eretz Yisrael. That are pleasant with each other in halacha. We'll see what that means. They discuss how they learn. They're pleasant with each other. We'll read it first and then explain. Chovlim, so who are these attackers? This is in the Talmud Bavli, right? These are the rabbis in Bavel. They attack each other in halacha. Also, they bring another verse. about the oil. It says these are the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael are nochim zelazeh. They're like oil. It's like shemen zayit, like the oil of olive oil. That's smooth. And zaitim are more bitter. Right, the olives themselves are bitter. Those are the rabbis in Bavel that are bitter to each other. At the end, at the bottom of the sheet, the same source, they bring down a verse from Eicha, Lamentations. I set you amongst the dead. I put you in the darkness like the dead of the earth. Amar Rav Yirmiyah, Ze Talmudah Shel Bavel. That is the Talmud of Bavel. In the darkness, in the depths, like the dead of the earth, like the world, I guess, that are buried. That is the Talmud Bavli. This is written in the Talmud Bavli. You'd think the Talmud Bavli would say, no, we're good, we're just the same, you can learn Torah in Bavli just like in Eretz Yisrael. Here the rabbis over and over throughout the Talmud Bavli and other sources, as we'll see, do not come to say there's no difference and everything's the same. They recognize and they tell us that there's a difference, a unique difference that is available to what is attainable in Eretz Yisrael, what is not attainable outside. We recognize that. We, the rabbis in Bavel, it's a fact. It's a reality. But we'll see later. It's for the blessing. You know, how can we attach ourselves? How can we reach that level? Luckily, the wisdom, the information was given to us of how mankind, how the rabbis, Torah, the Jews, in the world can connect to the divine. Because if we said everything is equal, it doesn't matter, so we'd say everyone stays in their place. But you should know that there's an ability to connect. By going to Eretz Yisrael, you have this ability to flow to the place that God, the eyes of God upon this land from the beginning to the end of the year. They give us information of how lucky we are that we know how we can plug in our lives, the individual lives, the collective lives, the universal life, all of creation, to connect it to its source, to bring such a blessing to flow, therefore, to all of creation. So that information didn't come to whitewash that and say, no, it doesn't matter, we're all the same. There are differences, there are levels, and to appreciate the levels and to be happy that we have this information, the knowledge of where's the plug that you can plug in the electricity and the machine starts to work. We have this whole machine that just needs to plug it into the electric socket. And the world looks the way it looks because it's not plugged in. And there's an ability to tell us it's not everywhere where you want. There's a place in the world, in the finite world, that God created that enables us to connect. So here Rav Yirmiyah says it very strongly that this is the Talmud Bavli, that the depth, the darkness, like he said above, in Psachim, that you sit in the land of darkness. But what is this Noam and attackers? Again, this requires understanding of what we've been talking about, how, like I called it the white light before, it's refracted in different colors. The ability to see the total picture, the big picture, the holistic view of all the different parts is in Eretz Yisrael. That's indigenous to the land, so to speak. It is able to be perceived this unity. When you're outside the land, you're underneath the prism, different aspects, different colors. You're in the world of the branches, let's call it. In Eretz Yisrael, you're now able to see, and we'll see, we mentioned last week, it's not a sufficient condition just being here, you automatically see this bigger picture. But here it's attainable, outside of which it's unattainable. So here there's an ability to see the white light, the bigger picture, the holistic view. The Torah study outside the land, each one sees his piece, his truth, his part, his branch, and it's part of the truth. It's part of the white light. But sees himself, as like I said before, separate and scattered and fractured. Each bone, each limb, each aspect, each element on its own, seeing the truth is by me and not by you. Seeing each one separate and opposing forces. And therefore, each one holds on to his truth, and the other guy's opinion is rejected. No, you're not right. It's my opinion. What I'm saying is true. And they attack each other. They have this, each one denying, negating, no, you're not right, and this, I'll prove you're wrong, whatever, just to prove you're other right, to prove that I'm right. It's, again, each one has an aspect of the truth. But it's like isolated to the point that it thinks that me as opposed to the other. The unified perspective, holistic perspective, enables you to see how you are part of this bigger truth. This holistic view requires, yes, you have a truth and I have a truth. So the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, the manimim, they're pleasant. They say, wow, I see what your point of view is. You have another, see your aspect from your point. I see how that also fits into the picture. It's also necessary for the bigger, like the instruments in the orchestra. I see how you're also needed. The drum adds it, the violin. It's not just me. The orchestra needs, you have a point, I have a point. And this holistic, again, view enables you to see, to be manimim, that's why it's in the singular tense. It's the one, it's this holistic view that sees how all together they're necessary. Rav Kook has an amazing explanation, article, so to speak, and in the Gemara, in what's called Einayah, his commentary to the Gemara in Brachot, how we say at the end of the Gemara in Brachot, but also the end of the prayers every day. How do we end? With Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam. Scholars add peace in the world. And he says in the simple view, the Gemara is full of, polemics, debates, you're wrong, this is right, prove this, prove that, different thing, different opinions, machlokit, diversity. You don't see one opinion, you see myriad of different opinions and conflicting opinions. One says it's mutar, one says permissible, one says it's forbidden. They're the opposite opinions. How do you say they add peace to the world? They add conflict in the world. So Cook explains that peace or shalom is not that everyone says the same thing. Yes, man, everyone agrees on one thing. Everyone is in my metaphor, the orchestra, everyone is a drum or a violin. No, the richness of the music is specifically through the multiplicity, the variety, the more instruments, the richer the music. A symphony orchestra with hundreds of instruments and hundreds of different things, and together they make up this. The truth, he says, the bigger truth is attained specifically by the multiplicity of the different opinions. The rabbis that add peace to the world, because when you have this perspective, this unified understanding, how all the different instruments, all the different opinions are necessary and needed and required to make up and to reveal fully the fuller truth, the bigger understanding, not just one opinion that is isolated, is private, the multiplicity, that each one adds a certain aspect that is necessary to make up this global, the bigger truth, the emet hagdolah, the shalom. That's the real shalom. Shalom is not peace and no one had different opinions, but peace is how the different opinions together working and make up like this harmony, working in perfect harmony. That is the view that's the Talmidei Chacham of Eretz Yisrael. That's this noam, the pleasant. I see your view. You have a truth. You have an aspect. You have something. I see. The other ones say no. My truth. My truth is the truth. Ani v'afsion, what it says. I and no other. In other words, me and not yours. As opposed to proving, disproving. I think I wrote down here the Zohar Chadash on the previous source. We said how. Zohar Chadash says, on what verse? Where's the light? I can't read it. The light, that is Eretz Yisrael, that is Yerushalmi, that lights up the light of Torah. And after that was cancelled, as if we remain in darkness. That's the Talmud Bavli, Zohar says. The Gemara Yuma explains how Zion is the center of the world. Is again not the physical center, but is this again the heart is not that's the center of the body geographically. But that's the center, the life that goes from there to all the limbs. So too this spiritual center enables this different vision. The Malbim explains. On this source we said before about in Ketuvot, that one is twice, the other, when you come up, you're 4 times. He explains that in Eretz Yisrael, the wisdom is based on this Shefa Eloki, is this divine influx. Like we said before, why it's called Bitul Torah, the Neshama cannot be revealed. It's not the flow. When you take out the nucleus, the electrons go. Right, they're called free electrons. They go flying. They don't have anything to keep them centered around the nucleus. When the neshama is not in Eretz, when they're not in Eretz Yisrael, there's no manifestation. When the nation is fractured, then each one is now on his own. The electrons are now free. Each rabbi, each scholar, each opinion is now indeed separate and opposing forces. They're all different branches of the truth, but they're not all separate and scattered. But also and therefore the Torah study is like a blind person, the rabbis liken it to a blind person groping in the dark. That the lights are out and you have to feel where this book is and where the table is. You have to feel your way and you have to find what you're looking for. When the lights go on, you go right to it. Like it's a direct what the rabbis liken it to, I don't have time to explain it. The Gemara in Bava, it talks about how a person can return a lost, or can claim a lost article. Usually you have to give a sign. You give a sign, a unique sign. I lost my wallet. You have to give a sign, not just a black wallet. There's a lot of black wallets. You have to give a unique sign. There's a scratch in the upper left corner. Anyway, you have to give a unique sign. Simanim, it's called, right? Sign. It says the Talmid Chacham, a rabbi, a special person, this level, can he receives it by what he calls tviyut ayin, an eye print, literally translated, a vision of holistic, intuitive identity. He identifies it by, that's mine. I know it's mine. In other words, not by any sign. There's a difference between signs and tviyut ayin. If a person, I say to you, go outside and I want you to meet someone who's going to deliver you something, Shlomo, and you don't know who Shlomo is. You're waiting outside. So I give you signs. He's wearing a green shirt with red glasses and purple hair. So now you don't know Shlomo, but you see who's coming with a yellow shirt. That's not him. Process of elimination. I'm waiting for the one with the signs that you gave me. Right? You don't know the person himself, but the external signs you have to identify. It's not him. It's not him. I'm waiting for the guy with those signs. You're always in doubt. He has the purple shirt or purple hair, whatever, but he doesn't have the other thing. So you never know really who it is. You don't know who it is. But when you process, again, elimination, as opposed to if I go outside and I see him, that's Shlomo. I see him coming. I don't even know the sign. I don't know what he's wearing, what he looks. I know that's him. I know him from this site. It's tviyut ayin. The advantage of the signs is that I can give it to someone else. If you don't know Shlomo, how can you identify him? So I give you signs. I can transfer that to other people, and now you also know how to identify him. The tviyut ayin I can't give you over. I know him. It's this instinctive, intuitive knowledge, awareness, what they call this holistic view of knowing the person, knowing him. The disadvantage of the signs is that it's always in doubt. Like I said, you never know. You're never certain. It could be now I've eliminated it. It's not him and him and him, but you don't know who it is. Yes, it is. It's always in doubt. The tviyut ayin is certain. The vision of Eretz Yisrael, and that the Malbim explains, and others maybe we'll see next week, without Hashem, is this vision, the Shef Eloki, this divine illumination. The lights are on. You don't need to grope around. It's not like I need to size and feel it. No, it's hard. No, that's not I'm looking for the bookshelf. It has. It's not some groping in the dark. It's a clear division. It's a shefa. It's divine. What you call the influx from above. And therefore, you see the truth directly, without the pilpulim, without the dialectic and the polemics back and forth, the Talmudic deliberations. That's why we'll see the Yerushalmi is different. It's more of this prophetic, conclusive. This is the answer. But I don't want to go deeper from the time. We'll have to pick up from there because a lot to talk about this difference in the study, in the way of study, and how it affects our vision. But we saw here at least that it's as if it's in the darkness, the groping in the dark. And that has ramifications of the understanding and the study and the way of seeing the bigger truth, how to connecting ultimately to the divine, the bigger truth and the source of truth. B'ezrat Hashem.